Studio by ex-professional footballer Marvin Morgan. What's going on, mate? You good?
What's going on?
It's lovely to have you here, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
We've chatted quite a bit on social media, but we've never linked up and chatted in the flesh. So
we're Instagram buddies.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way of the world now, though, isn't it? So many people are friends online but haven't actually met. But firstly, welcome, and secondly, I wanted to speak to you about life after football, really, because you're somebody that's gone on to do quite well for yourself, and we'll talk about the brand and things like that. But what is life like when you retire from playing football? And I know you're kind of still playing, but when you retire from playing professional football,
it's difficult because obviously you're so used to Groundhog Day, every single day training. There's not if you're not training, you're resting. If you're not resting, you're playing a match. So when that all stops, it's very, very difficult to kind of figure out, what do I do now? You know what I mean? So some people it lands on their laps and they can go into other stuff, and some people it's harder to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah, me and producer Kieran and Jess working on the show, we were just talking just before you came in about nowadays the top players, the Premier League players, they're earning so much money that surely they don't necessarily have to do anything after football. But
see, there's a thing.
But there's a difference between need and want, though, and that's what it is. A lot of professional players want to do something after because they get bored, right?
Yeah, but you got to look at stats. Stats say that 60% of Premier League footballers go bankrupt 3 years after they retire from football.
Why?
Well, there's loads of reasons, like divorce, bad investment, gambling, alcoholism. There's loads of stuff that say why you can basically lose your money 3 years after retiring from football, because that money doesn't last forever.
Do you know the maddest thing about that? Most people listening to this will be a little bit like me, and I'm like, but certain players are getting 100, 200, 300 grand a week. How are you going bankrupt? Where's that dough going?
Yeah, but you got to look at they're on top whack tax, so they're 50%, some 60%. So that's hard. When you say 100 grand a week, it's actually 50. And this sounds straight. It's still 50.
What they're struggling.
But then you live within your means. So all them holidays, all them cars, all them houses, you can't sustain that forever. And some footballers have very, very bad financial advice, and it kind of it's very, very difficult to talk to younger players, because if they sign a contract and they're on $1 grand, $2 grand, $3 grand a week, they're the breadwinner in the family. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of money for a young age, and some parents might never see this money. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing to try and help the younger kids to try and kind of look after their money.
Have you seen Ballers?
Yes,
with Dwayne. Yeah. And it's kind of like that, isn't it? So if you've not seen Ballers, it's a TV show that's about an ex-American football player. He retires and then he decides to set up a kind of investment agency where he gives people advice on where they should put their money. He gives other American football players advice. So is that kind of what you're trying to do? You're trying to be
again, we've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes, and obviously you want to hope that you can basically be positive to the next generation coming in. And I've got a 5-year-old son, and someone always asks me, do you want your son to play football? And I'm like, well, I would never push him to play football. If he wants to play football, that's another thing. So
that's an interesting one. So many professional sports people, not just footballers, professional sportsmen and women, when you say would you want your child to go into this? There's always this kind of hesitance. Why is that? Is it because you understand how difficult and how cutthroat that world can be?
It's very, very cutthroat, especially football. I feel like the money softens everything. But at the end of the day, we can talk about mental health. You can talk about loads of stuff within football that's very, very difficult. Injury is a number one thing. I have a lot of friends that got injured after injury after injury, and it has affected their mental state. And sometimes it's very, very difficult.
Right, well, we're going to talk a little bit more about mental health from sports people and retired sports people in a little bit. We're also going to talk about what you've done since you've retired as well, because some people might not even know you as a footballer. They might know you from the brand that you've set up and stuff as well. So we're going to do that after this from D Block Europe. and with me in the studio, Marvin Morgan, ex-professional footballer, now turned businessman and semi-professional footballer and voice for mental health, just an all-round good character. So before we played that last song from D Block Europe, we were talking about what footballers kind of do once they retire and how they deal with retirement and going from, because one of the things a lot of people say is that they find it difficult to go from having lots of fans cheering your name and people kind of idolising you to almost losing that overnight, and the next player comes in and you're a bit forgotten. But you, in your spare time, you decided to come up with a fashion brand. So how did that come about? Fresh Ego Kid.
I think when I first signed my first professional contract and I was at Aldershot, and I realised, no disrespect to Aldershot, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Like, you think a professional footballer, I think if someone said that on the street, you think of Wayne Rooney, you know what I mean, Harry Kane. But again, we were at the bottom of that professional kind of spectrum. So, like, I always knew that this isn't going to last forever. And I just had a pop shop, and it took me a few years to kind of get into to look for a T-shirt, look for a name, design stuff. I remember when we were on our way to Accrington Stanley. What a team, man. Yeah. And I said to the lads, look, I'm going to come up with a clothing brand. And everyone laughed. So that was the first kind of thing of, like, obviously of a footballer trying to do something. And again, his peers were like, no, we play football. That's what we do. Like, that's all we do. So if you look at now, there's a lot of footballers doing a whole host of things, like great stuff as well. So again, it was probably way before my time, before like everyone thought about doing anything like this. So it took time. Again, I look back at it, the minute I started the clothing brand, my football career went downhill because managers, chairmen, coaches couldn't take me serious because they thought, you don't care about football no more. The only thing you do is care about your business.
Really?
So, yeah, that was and this is when I was at Shrewsbury, and I still speak to the chairman now. He's a good guy. He's helped me a lot, and it was really difficult. There was a coach, I won't mention no names, but you had to give 30 seconds about yourself when I first signed for Shrewsbury, and we were jogging around pre-season training, and it's, hi, I'm Marvin Morgan from Manchester. I grew up in Watford, and I'm going to start a clothing brand. And he's like, stop training. Whoa, stop. What do you mean you're going to start a clothing brand? I was like, well, I've got a lot of time. I've moved to Shrewsbury. Don't really know anyone yet, so I'm going to have time to focus on doing something. No, you're not. And I'm like, I've only just met this guy. I have no idea who it was. And he was like, we are focusing on promotion this year. And I was like, but what's the difference between me and someone who's got a family of 3?
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference? I'm going to have so much time on my hands. No, your energy and focus is promotion and Shrewsbury Town. And I go, it's still going to be that, but when I leave here, I'm going to focus on this. And guess what? We still got promoted, and I still started Fresh Ego.
Smashed it. Come on. Still did it.
Yeah, so again, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like, I like to say in football, there are a lot of dinosaurs. And I don't know if that's a disrespectful thing to say, but a lot of older people that kind of stuck in their own ways. I think the new age footballer, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, well, I mean? We see it all the time with footballers on social media, don't we? You know, like the older generation of people hate seeing footballers having a good time on social media. They cannot stand it. I'm not going to call anyone out. I'm just saying, like,
I will. Don't worry.
People hate it. They see, the younger footballers dancing and just like doing stuff that young boys, do, and they just don't like it.
Yeah, but I understand. There's some older players that probably had more ability than the newer players, and the new players are going to make 3-fold, 5-fold, or whatever they made as they played. So I totally understand. There's a bit of bitterness there, but again, it happens, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the brand. And how did you grow this brand from being like just an idea to what it is now? Because it's available in like some high street shops and stuff now. You've managed to get it big, and it's because of the connections that you've got, right?
Yeah, like I feel like I like to think I'm a nice guy, and I've got a lot of close friends that have helped me along the way. My best mate, Ben Alexander, Joel Mannix, John Reuben. These are just to name a few of people that have really been close and helped build the brand. Like, I look back in the days, JLS was one of the first people and N-Dubs to wear the brand.
Really?
And put it out there, yeah. And it was, looking back at them, like Little Mix. So, and that's just the start. That's when they first started, around the whole X Factor time. So I remember putting it on a dancer, and the dancer was wearing it, and then they were like, "Oh, where'd you get that?" And it kind of went on from there.
Right.
And being in football myself, the likes of Sterling, Dele Alli, Kieran Trippier, James Maddison, again, Danny Rose, just to name a few names.
We're talking like, if you don't follow football, we're talking like full-blown England internationals here.
Yeah, and I feel like if they like it, I never force it on people to say, go on, wear it, because I think that's the wrong thing to do. I feel everything's got to be organic, and that's how I believe in with football, with friendship. If you like it, you like it, and if you don't, you don't. I got some mates that don't like the brand, and I don't hate them for that. They just don't like it.
Do they tell you that?
Yeah, but that's what I want. Honesty. I want honesty with my people. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, and that's what it's all about. Trying to. I get people ask me to wear, and sometimes I say no, and I say, look, here's a discount code, because I feel like then that's kind of bridges the relationship.
Yeah.
Don't just ring me for free Fresh Ego
Yeah.
credits. Like, nah, I don't like that. So.
Sometimes you got to support your friends as well.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. Yeah, and I feel like if I want to grow the business, your friends have to support what you're doing.
Yeah. 100%. Right. Well, that's Fresh Ego, Kid. We're going to find out about the charity work that you've been doing recently as well. But we're going to do it after this. Stay there. Haven't heard this for ages. DJ Luck, MC Neat, JJ. This ain't no stopping us. Marvin Morgan with me in the studio. And we'll chat some more on the other side of this. Right, Marvin Morgan's with me in the studio right now. Coming up in the midday mix, just after midday, it's going to be Manny Brown taking care of you for 15 minutes. But as I say, Marvin Morgan, ex-professional footballer, owner of Fresh Ego Kid, and now mental health advocate. So tell us about this side of what's going on.
So, obviously being in football, I felt like we had to give back some way, somehow. But sometimes I'm looking at it now, how can you give back in a fun way so you can basically raise as much of awareness as possible? So YouTube football's on an all-time high. If you look at football's teams like SE Dons,
Yeah.
Beatties, just to name a few, there's loads of them, but these are the ones that, again, I am really, really looking at what they're doing, and it's unbelievable. If we look at Hackney Wick, what Bobby's done with the anti-knife crime, it's great. So I generally thought this is the way that we should give back, because being in football, knowing a lot of footballers and everyone around me playing football at all types of levels, I feel like that was the right thing to do.
SE Dons, you just mentioned there, they're a really interesting one for me, because they've essentially gone from absolutely nothing, or a really small Sunday League team, to embracing the YouTube side of it, like you said, and now they've actually got a big following. And there's obviously #FC as well, right? Which is Spencer.
Yeah, he's done well. Spoke to him recently.
So do you think that we're going to start seeing, because these YouTubers, let's be honest, if we're talking about the biggest YouTubers here, the likes of KSI and all the rest of it, when they did football matches, they were selling out stadiums. Yeah. Certain football teams can't sell out stadiums.
This is the craziest thing about, I have a 5-year-old son, and he watches stuff on YouTube. I try so hard to make sure I don't watch YouTube, but he watches people playing computer games.
Yeah.
On YouTube, and I'm like, don't you want to play? And he's like, no, I want to watch that. I'm like, what?
It's weird. It's massive,
so
though.
I look at the football, and especially SE Dons and Hashtag and Beatties. They're doing, like, I'm looking at it thinking, God, they're unbelievable. I'm like, I'm a fan. I'm signed up. I watch everything they're doing. So just to take a little bit from what they're doing and kind of add it into our sauce, if you like to say, and grow. We're going to play against all of them. I've already said to them, like, we've got to have a game. So, but for us, like, we have 3 boxes. And the first box is mental health in football, but mental health in general. And the same thing, second box is racism in football and racism. And like the boxes that we have it's so hard to target and to say it's just for football because it's general life as well.
It's
what I mean?
massive.
You can't just kind of pinpoint that as well. And then the last box is life after football. And we've started this already with the PFA and talking to the young kids. So we went to Man United and spoke to the under-17s. Went to Chelsea and Arsenal come to our office. And basically what we do a little workshop and get them in. We say, well, all of you think you're cool, yeah? You're not cool. And I have a little bit of banter with them and tell them about my story, how I started. And then basically we put up a workshop with the designer and photographer and go into our studio. So we've split up the youth team, and some would be with me, some would be with the photographer, some would be in the studio. And then I'll say, right, here's a sheet, show me what you can do. Show me some designs, show me some logos, like show me how you would design Fresh Ego Kid. So we do some designs. And then the other side is we'll have the photographer, like the kids would be photographers and then there'll be models, they're trying some clothes and then put the music on and stuff like that. So we make it a bit fun.
Right.
And then obviously I kind of explain to these guys and say to them, right, stats say that none of you are going to do a Rashford. I try and be as blunt as possible, but as fair as possible. And they say, right, if you don't make it in football, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? A lot of them said hairdressing. A lot of them said clothing brand. A couple of people have said I wanted to go to uni. So trying to get that in their head now. So if it doesn't come to light, they already know what they're going to do before they get the no, you're not going to get your YTS, no, you're not going to get your pro. So, and that's kind of the life after football kind of box that we want to try and push and help the kids really.
Yeah, you got to have a plan B at the end of the day. And it's in football. It's like we said earlier. It's cutthroat massively, and especially for those young people. They can take it so badly, and that can affect their mental health hugely as well.
Yeah.
But what about the issue of racism in football? Because we're seeing it so much rear its head again when. A lot of people thought that it was getting better. So many people thought that it was on the decline, but it's always been there bubbling. And we've seen a few instances this season of things happening. But did you have to deal with racism during your footballing career?
Yeah, I've had a few incidents with some fans, and sometimes I feel like they do it to put you off. Like I always say to people, are they actually racist, or they're doing it to try and put you off? And like the whole Bernardo Silva stuff, I don't believe he's racist. He's got caught doing a racist act. So, and again, this is my opinion. Like, there's a lot of people that will have a different opinion, say, no, he's racist, he said that. So,
well, a lot of people will listen to that and say, you know, if he's doing something racist, then he is a racist.
There you go, yeah. So, and again, I look at how society is, and I think Gary Neville hit the nail on the head on what he's saying. It's a society thing. It's not just a stadium thing. You're not a racist when you enter a stadium, and then when you leave the stadium, now I'm not racist now. That's in you. You know what I mean? So it's an education thing. How can we educate our next generation to understand that no one's born a racist? You know what I mean? Like, you're taught from this from your parents, your grandparents, and it's like, and that's the sad thing about it now. Is trying to the education. What's the government going to do to educate the next generation on racism and history?
It's a big problem, and you know, it's nice to know that, you know, after the success of your career being a footballer and then Fresh Ego Kid, you're actually trying to give back to the footballing community as well, and more beyond football. Marvin, it's wicked having you in. If people want to find out a little bit more about what you're doing, where can they get you? Where can they find you?
All the information on Fresh Ego FC is on our website, www.freshegokid.com, and obviously social channels as well as myself, Marvin, and Morgan, and all of the rest of the Twitter, Instagram. That's where you'll find us.
And there's a charity match, is there? Yeah,
we've got another game coming up. The date at this current time is the 19th of February.
Okay. All right. So, and if that changes, keep an eye on your Insta.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. Well, listen. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Wicked chatting. So that's Marvin Morgan, ex-professional footballer, and now one of the bosses of Fresh Ego Kid, the clothing